Welcome back to the channel and to this weird looking French car. Now, as most of our longtime viewers will remember, this is our 1969 Renault R10. You know, this sad little car was rescued from the crusher a few years ago, and it's been an interesting project ever since. You see, the original engine for this car was foobar, and we decided to reanimate this corpse with a Harbor Freight 670cc V-twin engine. Now, the nice thing about this very old car is the fact that it's been stored indoors since 1986. Yep, apparently in 86 the engine was disassembled and the car was all but forgotten. Fast forward to a few years ago, we worked our magic on this thing, and the car actually runs and drives again. But this time around, it's not exactly normal. And when you think about it, when is a French car ever considered normal? In the trunk, under the hood, or whatever they call the back of this car, is a mighty 670cc V-twin Predator engine, and this mostly stock engine has had some upgrades. You know, for a two-cylinder car, this thing can definitely get out of its own way. Yep, the twin 26mm carburetors was exactly what the little engine needed once we got them dialed in. Now, of course, this car does have a 4-speed manual transmission. However, the way we set it up, it's really only a 2-speed now. It's got fast and faster, or something like that. You see, in order to mate the V-twin engine to the stock Renault gearbox, we ended up using a Comet 94 Duster variable ratio clutch. Now, some people call this a CVT, and others call it a torque converter. Anyway, the continuously variable clutch on this car is tuned to allow the car to operate in third and fourth gear. The variable ratio on the clutch makes first gear and second gear more or less redundant, and while those gears still work, the overall performance of the car is better if you take off in third gear. You know, that's hard for some people to wrap their head around, but it's the way we set it up. Now, for the longest time, the transmission just wouldn't go into reverse, but that turned out to be a simple fix, and now the car has a reverse. Well, unfortunately, this car has been sitting in the corner of the shop for 8 months, and I really want to take this thing for a ride today, so let's see if we can get the car running again. Ah, yes, this thing has a face only a mother could love. Well, that's my opinion. A lot of people actually think it's cute. It's definitely unique, but then again, it's an old car, and it's from a different time. You know, it's sad. Not many of these creatures have survived here in the United States. Anyway, the last time this guy ran was sometime in October of last year. I reckon there's actually no reason why it wouldn't start right up, but let's check a few things. Perhaps the first thing we should do is check to see if it's even got gas in the tank. Wow, it's got fuel, but it smells a little bit old. You know, it's probably okay, but it's definitely getting stale. So maybe we should pump this stuff out and put some fresh gasoline in it. I just don't like the smell of what's in that tank. So let's put that on the list. The battery on this car is tiny, but don't let that fool you. It's a Mazda Miata battery, and it's got a lot of power for its size. Anyway, let's see how much juice it's got. Wow, it's almost fully charged. 12.78 volts is really good, especially since this buggy's been sitting for a while. Since this guy is from a Mazda Miata, it's an absorbed glass mat type battery, or AGM. It's probably more battery than this car really needs. Alright, the battery seems fine, so let's just go ahead and pump the old fuel out, put some fresh gas in it, and fire this thing up. So this car has a 2.5 gallon fuel tank, which is pretty small, but plenty big for what we use the car for. And the limited amount of fuel gives this car a range of about 80 miles. Now, to get the fuel from the tank to the carburetors, we're using an electric fuel pump with a pressure regulator. You see, both the stock carburetor and these aftermarket carburetors can't tolerate a lot of fuel pressure that you get from a low-pressure electric fuel pump. So we ended up using a regulator and a return line to maintain a safe amount of fuel pressure. Now, what's nice about the electric fuel pump is we can use it to pump out the old fuel without too much effort. Yep, the gasoline that's coming out of the fuel tank looks kinda stale. I think once we get the tank pumped out, we'll have a closer look at this stuff and compare it to some fresh gasoline. So this stuff is the old gas, and this is the fresh gas. It's amazing that it only took 8 months for the gasoline to start going stale. I'm sure this stuff would be perfectly fine to use today, but there's always a chance that the ethanol in the gasoline has absorbed some water during the past several months, and that can lead to carburetor icing if the conditions are just right. So just to be on the safe side, we'll feed this Renault some fresh gasoline. You know, after fooling around with diesels for a while, the aroma of gasoline is actually refreshing. Now, back in the day, Sunoco 94 was available at the pump, and that stuff had a wonderful smell, especially after it was fed to a small block Chevy. Nowadays, gasoline sort of has a chemical smell to it. Meh, the electric car folks have no idea what I'm talking about.
Gas explodes, you know!
So let's check the oil before we fire this thing up. Yeah, it's a little bit on the low side, but that's fine. On this engine, a little bit low is always better than a little bit high. Alright, for the first start of the season, we're going to be using the Lone Wolf 2000. That way I can fiddle with the chokes. Normally this engine will start without the chokes, especially on a warm day like today, but choking it will get the engine to fire right off without any drama. Yeah, there was a little bit of drama, but that's to be expected. This engine has an extremely low idle, and that's on purpose. You see, the low idle allows the transmission to engage without grinding the gears. Remember, this car doesn't have a conventional clutch. Now, the unequal length headers definitely give this two-cylinder engine an odd sound to it, but overall the engine seems to be running great, and I'm not really sure what else I need to do to this car right now other than removing the Lone Wolf remote starter gizmo. Meh, I'm bored of doing all this stuff. Let's just take this buggy out for a ride. So around town, I just leave the transmission in third gear and let the CVT clutch thingy sort everything out. It's basically like driving a car with an automatic transmission. So third gear works best, and the only reason you'd want to use first or second gear is if you were pulling a fully loaded horse trailer. Now in this car, that's never going to happen, and that's because the back bumper is not strong enough for a trailer hitch. Anyway, third gear along with the CVT clutch allows the two-cylinder engine to move the car with no problem. Now this car will actually go up to 55 miles per hour in third gear, but typically I'll shift into fourth gear at around 45 miles per hour. And when the car is in fourth gear, it'll cruise along easily at 60 miles per hour, and it'll definitely go a little bit faster. But it's scary to drive this car fast. You know, these cars did handle pretty good when they were new, but 56 years later, I reckon the newness has worn off. You know, time has a way of doing that if you didn't know. Outside of town on the back roads, where more speed is desired, then I'll shift the transmission into fourth gear. Now, believe it or not, it's actually possible to leave the transmission in fourth for city and highway driving, but the acceleration performance will suffer quite a bit. Now, sometimes I do get a little lazy and just leave the transmission in fourth gear and let the CVT do its magic. This car was a cool experiment to see how fast we could get the car to go with a relatively stock 670cc Harbor Freight engine. But I think it's time to move on and retire this project. You know, I have a much bigger project planned in the near future, and I really need the space in the shop. So this car is definitely for sale, and I put a price and a contact email in the video description. The car is located about 20 miles outside of Wichita, Kansas, and it's available as is, where is. Keep in mind, this is a very old car with 85,000 original miles, and all we did to it was reanimate a dead car with a questionable engine transplant. I reckon there were maintenance items that needed to be addressed back in '86 when they put the car in storage, and they still haven't been done yet. Now, our goal was never to restore the car. You see, we always intended to pass this car along to someone who wanted to restore it or use it for parts. You know, I'll miss this car, but in order to keep our projects fresh and interesting, we need to move on. Now, I haven't counted, but there's probably over 20 videos documenting all the shenanigans we've done to this thing over the years. And at this point, I can say for a fact that a 2-cylinder engine from Harbor Freight will move a car, but at the end of the day, it's still just a 2-cylinder engine. Perhaps this wasn't the best solution, but we did have a lot of fun working through all the challenges. Back in the day, the Renault 10 was a popular car here in the United States, but as time passed on, these cars all but disappeared. You know, this shabby and well-worn example is probably the single most famous Renault 10 on the streets today, and that's because an obscure YouTube channel has decided to make this car the star of the show. Thousands of people tuned in every week to see this little car try as hard as it could to accelerate up to the mind-bending speed of 55 miles per hour. And despite the handicap of the 2-cylinder engine, every week this car got a little bit more faster. Now, it's easy to fall in love with a car that's been a YouTube favorite for years, but in reality, this car is just a reanimated corpse, or as I like to call it, a self-propelled parts car. Yep, it still wears most of its original paint, and in fact, this car is actually pretty solid. It does have rust here and there, and the only serious rust that I know of is in the rocker panels. They're actually kind of crunchy. For the most part, the rockers look okay, however, you can see some rust poking through. The floors on the car appear to be solid, and overall this is a great starting point for a restoration. Now, we confidently drive this thing on the back roads at reasonable speeds, but the car has never had a safety inspection of any kind. And if it did, I reckon it would likely fail due to the condition of the shock absorbers and suspension bushings. And I'm sure the brakes will need looking after as well. The good news is, these tires are actually only 2 years old and have less than 3,000 miles on them. What I'm saying is, this car may not be roadworthy in a lot of states, including Kansas. Sure, it runs, drives, and stops, but it's definitely not a daily driver. These two doors have obviously been repainted for one reason or another, so it's possible they may have been damaged in the past and they may have some filler on them. The engine cover also appears to have been touched up, and it may have a small amount of filler as well. However, the rest of the car appears untouched and is original. So for 37 years of this car's 56-year existence, it was stored in a barn, and that's likely the reason this car has managed to survive. But keep in mind, prior to being put in storage, this car was driven for 16 years and has accumulated around 85,000 miles. So it's been around the block a few times, and it's not in perfect condition. Now, almost every panel on this car has some sort of ding or dent, and some of the trim is damaged. There's some rust on the lower part of the front fenders that's going to need some attention. Now, the cool thing about this car is the rear quarter panels are bolted on, and they can easily be removed to pop some of the dents out. As a matter of fact, last year we did remove this quarter panel to pound out a small dent in this area. The glass on the car is in great condition with 0 chips or cracks. When we purchased this car 2 years ago, it was about 99% complete, and it still had the original engine and cooling system in place. We'll include all the original parts that have been removed because they may be helpful in the future if this car is ever to be restored. Now, the original engine is basically no good, and it's missing its pistons, connecting rods, and cylinder sleeves. I'm sure the right person could rebuild the engine, and the parts are still available if you look hard enough. And if you know how to speak French, that's definitely a bonus. This car is not for everybody, and I suspect only a few people may be seriously interested. We priced the car in order to recover some of our costs. You know, I really wish we could just give it away, but this channel doesn't generate a lot of revenue, and we can't afford to do something like that. In the video description, we provide a contact email with some additional information. So if you're interested in this French car, well, you probably can figure out what to do. So this is an unusual video for this channel, but the good news is by the time you see this, we'll have already have our new project vehicle on site, and we intend to actually build something that's practical for everyday use. Plus, we're fixing to do a lot more small engine experiments, and we're in the process of designing and building some test fixtures in order to provide real scientific measurements of our silly experiments. You know, there's a lot to be learned by just fooling around and having a little bit of fun. We'll see you next time. Until then. Last week when I was reading the comments, I saw someone ask if this channel had an AI voice. No, it's not an AI voice. It's my voice. I don't know if that's a compliment or an insult. Now, I do understand a lot of people don't like AI voices, and I don't like them either. This channel has a real human voice. And I don't know if an AI can sound as stupid as I do sometimes, so there you go. I'm Jimbo, and I'm the creator of this channel, and I'm definitely not an AI.